I'm not going to just sugarcoat this. This show is going to be a little bit, I won't say hectic, but I'm going to be tending to go off a little bit. All right. So buckle down, strap in, lock in. Week 1 is in the rear view. We're in season, and we're going to get ready to rock and roll. We're previewing predicting games on Thursday. I'll promote that after this show. This is a recap show. So the format of this show, since we're only doing college football, is recaps on Tuesdays, previewing predictions on Thursdays, and ranking reactions on Thursdays. Guys, I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. Listen, we're in. We are in. Literally the first show that we're doing without a guest in a month and a half. So, hey, welcome back. You're probably thinking that. Welcome back. It's just going to be me this go round. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel Norris. And whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, listening on Podbean or Apple, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple. All you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X and Instagram at Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow all the pages there. You're going to get updates and a bunch of content from me on all platforms. We're starting a new thing called Bedtime College Football Talk. You will see that with our Pigskin Frenzy coverage games afterwards on Saturday. So tune in to X for that. That's going to be very interesting. We might put those on Instagram as well at Pigskin_Frenzy on both channels. And the website's www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. You can contact me there and all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy on that. Guys, we are at 5,300 listeners and counting. We are going up. This show's getting, just growing and growing and growing. We're getting more out there. So big shout out to everybody who tunes into the show each and every Tuesday and Thursday. But not only that, we're so thankful and grateful for the Lord and Savior, for our Lord and Savior, Jesus. We are so blessed by him to be doing this show every week. We give him all the praise. And if you want to come to know him, contact me below. Contact me on X and Instagram at Pigskin_Frenzy, as well as the website www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. There's a contact info down below. We give him all the praise for this show because without him, we would not be here, and we're so thankful. But we're tended to go off today because week 1 was hectic. I went 1-3. I mean, I'm just going to sit there and say it. I went 1-3. Shout out to Savannah 2J, who was on our show this past Thursday as our guest picker. Big announcement there. She will be a reoccurring guest on the show. So we have a partnership going on with her there. We're so thankful for her and honestly very pumped that she likes coming on the show. So we are really, really pumped about that. Now, if you want to talk about what had happened on this past weekend, and really nothing ever really goes well after you say what had happened. So what had happened was a lot of big time upsets, and we're going to kick off with one here in a little bit. 1-3. You're probably going to guess, and you probably already know which game I got right. And I'm honestly was surprised that it happened, but we're standing on business with it. We're going to go with some of the games that we got, the games that we got wrong, right? We got 3 games wrong, 1 game right. So let's kick it off with the 1 game that we got wrong. And, that would turn into the biggest upset in college football in week 1. Alabama at Florida State. I just don't even know really where to begin. My eyes are watering thinking of it because I got chills talking about this game. I don't even know where to begin to talk about this. So I'm tuning in. I'm seeing it. I'm viewing it. Alabama at Florida State. I was going to travel to try to go to a game this weekend. I could not, unfortunately, because of, a lot of sickness happening, this past Thursday. I'm a lot better now, which is good. But I was tuning into this one, and I was making sure, okay, let me just put a dot on this one. Alabama starts off white hot, running the ball, very, physical drive at first, touchdown. They score 7-0. And then enters Thomas Castellanos or Tommy Castellanos, whatever you want to call him. And the replaying in my head of what he said during the offseason of They don't have Nick Saban anymore. They can't hide behind him anymore. We're going to go out there and beat him. And he was just talking trash, right? And trying to build his confidence and be confident for that game. Little did we know, they score and they go down the field quick. I'm like, all right, Florida State, send it on business early. A lot of people were picking Alabama to either A, blow them out, B, Florida State was going to keep up close with them at the first half, and then Alabama runs away with it. And then, C, Florida State maybe hangs around in there until the third quarter, then Bama runs away with it in the fourth. All outcomes were pointing towards Alabama. I said the first one. I said Alabama was going to blow them out. I didn't believe it. I had to believe it to see everything. And then Doak Campbell Stadium came alive, and then a lot happened, which means Thomas Castellanos stood on business for Florida State. And by standing on business, it means he ran all over them. So it was the Tommy Castellanos show. The final score of this game was Florida State 31, Alabama 17. Alabama loses their first season opener since 2001. I was in diapers when that happened, okay? I was in diapers when Alabama lost their first season opener, or lost their season opener, the last time they lost their season opener, rather. This is the first season opener in my lifetime that I've seen Alabama lose against a team that went 2-10 last year in their home stadium. Yes, but there's a bunch of key factors in all of this. Number one, Thomas Castellanos is prone to do this because he did it last year in Doak Campbell Stadium when he was with Boston College. He beat the team that he's on now. All right? So that's one. Excuse me. That's one. Number two, Gus Malzahn's there. Gus Malzahn has a history of beating Alabama. So that's the second ingredient there. And then number three, they really played like they had nothing to lose. Florida State really had nothing to lose after this. Shout out to Josh Pate for this one. We're going to talk about the winners first, Florida State. Shout out to Josh Pate for this one. Josh Pate said on his show that when Florida State opened up against Georgia Tech and Ireland last year, Florida State ran the ball and scored immediately. First drive. And then after that, it was just a downhill spiral from there. It's eerily similar to what happened on this past Saturday with Alabama. Eerily similar. And that's what scares me a little bit. Florida State with Thomas Castellanos, and we are going to talk about this right now. Thomas Castellanos was 9 for 14, 152 yards. Didn't have any touchdown passes, but he did run the ball well. 16 carries, 78 yards, one touchdown on the ground. Danzy with the 56 yards, 3 carries, a touchdown. Shawchuck had 6 yards. 6 carries, 28 yards, and a touchdown. Florida State did really, really well. And not only that, they did really well defensively as well. Their D-line shocked me the most. Tony White deserves all credit in this ball game because the defense kept up, they manned up, and they played really, really physical on defense as well. Here is why I'm shocked, and here's the number one thing I'm shocked about. To me, they played very physical. And when I'm saying very physical, I'm saying they out-physicaled Alabama. Now, I said the big key in this game was Florida State needed to beat them on the line of scrimmage. And they did. They did. Like, they literally out-physicaled them on the line of scrimmage. The whole time. Literally. It was literally just Florida State unleashing on the line of scrimmage and out-physicaling Alabama in that game. Shocker. Because that's not Alabama football. Florida State looks really good. And I'm telling you, I may have underestimated them a bit, and I think a lot of people across college football media and in the country has underestimated Florida State. Florida State looks like at least a top 25 team, at least. So, to me, let's see what happens. I'm not going to sit there and say it's week one. Florida State, the wheels may fall off. Who knows? We don't know. But I'm going to tell you what, they play like that on Saturday against others in the ACC. The ACC better watch out Florida State may have a resurgence, and Mike Norvell may have a resurgence as well. Gus Malzahn called great plays to trick up Alabama's defense and to trick up Kane Womack. And then Tony White played really physical defense and preached physicality for that defense. The atmosphere was electric. Everybody was electric. I was shocked the whole time watching it. And Alabama just really didn't do anything. Let's talk about Alabama, because that was on Florida State's take. That was my take on Florida State. Florida State looks really good. Let's talk about Alabama. Alabama scares me a little bit. And the thing is, I put them fourth in the conference standing projections for the SEC. They did not play like the number 14 in the SEC to me. What they played like is they played like I would say bottom tier team. Michael Bratton from that SEC podcast, shout out to him. He put them 15th in his power rankings entering week 2. When was the last time you seen Alabama at 15 or 14 or at the bottom of a power rating? That is beyond me. Literally beyond me. I'm shocked to all get out that they are rated that low. It's not because they are rated that low because of what happened on Saturday and how they played. It's just me visualizing it and seeing Alabama, one of the lowest rated SEC teams on a power rating scale, it blows my mind because I'm not used to seeing that. Alabama has had trouble on the road. Yes, they have had trouble on the road. It's no secret. But man, like that? I mean, really, like that. I think Ty Simpson made some decent plays, but he made some throws and some plays that were a little bit rushed. I'm not blaming a lot of it on Ty Simpson. I'm blaming a lot of it on the receivers, because the receivers didn't do him any justice either, besides Jeremy Bernard. Jeremy Bernard was the only receiver that did him justice and played a really good game. Florida State didn't really have a good answer for Jeremy Bernard, but everywhere else they did for sure. The offensive line got manhandled, and I thought the offensive line was one of the best in college football, not just in the SEC, in college football. Alabama got beat at their own game. Physicality. We are going to have a new thing here, guys. A new thing, and I'm playing the sound too early. We're going to have a new thing here on Pigskin Frenzy, and we call it the Pigskin Violin, the sad violin. And Alabama has earned that title this week. They have earned that title this week on this show. We're playing it. And we played it because they have earned that this week. New segment, Pigskin Violin, Pigskin Sad Violin. I'm going to trademark it. Alabama has earned the Pigskin Sad Violin this week. And it's crazy to think that Alabama is the first team to earn that. Why? Because usually Alabama is physical up front. They're flying around the ball. They got the athletes to do it, and they got the talent to do it, but they just didn't utilize it. Kayla DeBoer said at the press conference yesterday that they had a game plan for this game, and it just wasn't utilized. I don't know what happened. They said they had a perfect game plan. They were perfect in practice. The defense felt good, but the media called them a little bit stuttered, a little bit, just a little bit flubbered. I'm not saying anything about Kayla DeBoer, pressure, all this, but I will say this. They got to get their team in order because, one, that was an Alabama team that looked just defeated, disappointed, didn't want to be there. They weren't strong enough. They weren't physical enough. They played like, oh, okay, we're just here. That's not Alabama football. If Nick Saban was there, he would be chewing into them. The culture looks a little bit different entering week 2 for Alabama. Just a tiny bit different. And I think the morale of the team needs to be fixed. I think that the character of the team needs to be fixed. They need to find an identity quick because, yeah, they have UNLM, they have Wisconsin, and then they have a bye week. Because after that bye week, they go into Sanford Stadium and play Georgia, a team that they usually are on top of, and they might be on top of. Who knows? But I will tell you this. The Georgia team that I saw against Marshall looked like dogs. And I'm not saying that because of the Bulldogs. They looked like dogs. Cue the dog emoji. They looked it. They look physical. They look good. I'm just letting you know now. I'm just letting you know now. Georgia looked good. Bama has to find something, because if they do not find something, literally, you might as well just, better luck next year, honestly. And I'm going to be real, better luck next year. They got to figure it out. ULM, Louisiana Monroe, is Saturday at home for Alabama. They need to figure it out. They need to figure it out quick. Florida State did great. I gave them all the credit. They played good, and I think they should be feared in the ACC if they continue to play like that. But a lot of it also was Alabama and them not being up for the task to compete. I don't know what happened and what they prepared for, but what also scared me, and I posted this under the comment section below on X, this made it worse, is what I said. Kane Womack said we were not surprised by what they brought on offense. That scares me. That scares me. It scares me to death, because if they weren't surprised that was coming, what's it going to look like, as the game goes on, but in other games as well? We're not surprised by that. And you still didn't do any effort to try to stop it. That is mind-boggling to me. Like, that shocks me right there. If y'all want to meme me for this, go ahead. Alabama needs to figure it out, and figure it out quick. I hope Bama memes me. I hope I'm wrong, because it's only week 1. I'm not trying to overreact, but that right there is worth an overreaction. That scares me. Never seen Bama look like that. Out of all my 24, going on 25 years of living, have not seen Alabama football look like that. Figure it out, and figure it out quick, because you got a brunt of a schedule coming your way in 2025. You got a buttload of talent, too. A heck of a roster. Offensive line, defensive line. Ty Simpson, I know he's talented enough. He just got to get into the swing of things. You got the receivers, but they're not catching the balls. They're not physical enough. They're not conditioned enough. Get conditioned, get physical, and get ready to play, and and figure out who you are, because this season can be a brutal one if you don't change it quick. Florida State beats Alabama. Crazy to think that. Very crazy. 31-17 is the final score of that ball game. Let's talk about Texas and Ohio State, because I think this is worth it. Texas and Ohio State happens. And, excuse me, and I picked Texas to win. I thought it was going to be a lot closer, and it was close. I thought it was going to be a lot more high scoring. It was not. Got that one wrong as well. Ohio State wins the ball game 14-7. They get the win. Julian Sayin is a menace at quarterback. And I knew he would be, right? I mean, Julian Sayin is a good quarterback. He proved, and this is what I said on the Red Zone Blitz podcast. Shout out to them and having me on their show as well. I said that I needed to see something from Julian Sayin. And then the thing is, I'm just curious about how he performs, because no one's going to say, okay, Julian Sayin's a menace, when he hadn't even played a single down of football. But he delivered, and made some big-time throws. One that gave him the lead against Texas, with Carnell Tate down the field. Throws a nice, beautiful football down the field to Carnell Tate and scores for a touchdown. Julian Sayin played well, made some good decisions. He made some bad decisions. I mean, he's a freshman, right? What are you going to do, right? What are you going to do? He did make some good decisions. Receivers weren't connecting with him, but that's okay, because he's still got to get gel with that team more in games. That's just going to happen. But Julian Sayin did play good. And what if I told you that he played better than Arch Manning? We're going to get to that here in a little bit, because in my opinion, he really did play better than Arch Manning. Now, Julian Sayin was there. Jeremiah Smith I'm thinking about Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. Jeremiah Smith did not have that much of an impact on the game, but he will eventually have an impact on the game sooner rather than later. He will. Carnell Tate, a touchdown, 49 yards, 2 receptions. Jeremiah Smith, 43 yards, 6 receptions. The running game was clicking a little bit. James Peoples got 10 carries, 20 yards. C.J. Donaldson was an absolute dog for this team on the running game. 67 yards, a touchdown, and 19 carries. And the defense for Ohio State was on point. The defense was all over Texas's offense. They were very physical. Matt Patricia deserves some sort of a bonus or a raise a little bit after this game because he coached really, really well against Kyle Flood and Steve Sarkisian in that Texas offense. They looked good on defense and looked physical on defense. So that defense looked physical. They looked physical on the line of scrimmage as well. They outplayed Texas on the line of scrimmage as well. And Ohio State looks like a threat all over again. Now, I made comments about the number 1 ranking coming up, and I'll clear that up a little bit. I commented that on X. We'll clear that up in a little bit. But Ohio State played like they want to be the number 1 team and like they are the number 1 team. They played like they're not going anywhere, and they're still in the hunt for a back-to-back national championship. Now, is Ohio State, am I going to sit there and think Ohio State doesn't need to be, they're the best team? Do they need, work? They do need work. They still need to gel on offense a little bit. I think that Julian Sayin is a good quarterback. I think he can improve in a lot of areas. He's only a freshman. Let's stop the overreaction on that part. I think that he's good. I think the Ohio State offense is talented. They just need to find some gel and keep playing. They need to keep going and keep playing. As the games go by, Ohio State's defense has offense has a shot at being better. Now, their defense pretty much carried them this game. Absolutely. I just think the offense needs to gel a little bit more as the games go on. And they will. And once they do, watch out for Ohio State because Ohio State will be in the thick of things. They just need to gel on offense a little bit more. Defense, they look stout and they look ready to go and very physical. I'm really high on Ohio State. I really liked how they played this past Saturday. I'm high on Julian Sayin. A solid game for his first start. I mean, literally against Texas, the number 1 team in the nation. Doesn't throw any picks. Throws a bomb down the field to Carnell Tate. Throws a lot of good throws. Made some missed throws, yes, and he made some good, accurate decisions as a freshman or as a redshirt freshman starting. For the first time in his career, literally made some good and problematic throws for defenses that they just were right, and the defenses were going to be pretty unsure on how to solve it, right? So Julian Sayin did good. He did really, really good. Impressed with Ohio State's offense. Let's see where we go from then. They got Grambling State week 2. Poor Grambling State. And we will see what happens with Ohio State on week 2. Let's talk about Texas. Let's talk about Arch. Apparently, this is a stat when it comes to Arch Manning. And let me just look this up really quick. Arch Manning had an off-target completion of 37% in the loss to Ohio State. It was the worst game for a Texas quarterback in the last decade. A lot of people are going to sit and think, oh, man, you were hyping him up, and there are a lot of people who were hyping him up. I didn't have him in my top 10. I will tell you why there is room to not panic. One, because it's his first game. It's a tough spot. You're going into a hard environment in the shoe in Columbus, Ohio to play against. You're playing against the defending national champion. You're starting your first full season, right, in a season, right? He's only started 2 games. I mean, ULM and Mississippi State. And your next game you start all of a sudden is against the defending national champion in their home stadium on their field. That's a tough spot to be in, man. A lot of pressure as well because the last name on the back of that jersey is your last name, right? And that's Manning. It's tough to be in that spot. The pressure on that kid is absolutely insane. So projected Heisman favorite, projected number 1 overall pick when I've already said that I don't expect him to go to the NFL draft this year. I've already said it, but a lot of people think that he is. it's tough, right? It's tough for Arch Manning. It's really, really tough. 37% completion. And a lot of that was on Arch. A lot of the gelling, a lot of the chemistry. Arch had some good throws in there that could have been made, but he did not play the best of his abilities, and a lot of that was on Arch. I'm not going to sit there and say that. A lot of it was on Arch. Let me tell you why that a lot of it also was on Steve Sarkisian. The play calling was rough, and I've noticed this the past few games that in big-time moments, play calling has been their kryptonite. It has not been there. Let's go back to the Cotton Bowl. Let's go to against Ohio State in the playoffs last year. Let's go back to the two Georgia games. Let's go back to even further than or later or way back earlier than that. Let's go to Washington in the Sugar Bowl in the 2023-2024 college football playoff when it was the last 14 playoff when Washington was playing Texas when Michael Penix was there. Let's go back to that because Texas was winning it first. And then the second half play calling ended up going rough. So play calling in these games have been kind of iffy, especially in big-time games. Now, when it comes to everybody else, they're on point. When it comes to the big-time games, as in Ohio State, Georgia, the games that you need to win for your resume and you need to win to further yourself in the college football playoff, those games, what are we doing? You know what I mean? And I think there were a lot of those play calls were a little bit predictable. And really, honestly, if you want to just be real, they kind of asked for a loss in that game with the play calling. They kind of asked for it. The defense was ready for it. Patricia saw it coming from a mile away. I just said the play calling needs to get a lot better for Texas. I really do. Did Ohio State earn that win? Absolutely. Can Texas get better? Absolutely. I'm not counting out Texas. I'm not writing them off. I'm just saying the play calling needs to get a lot better for this team. That's me owning up to it. Prove me wrong. I'm not saying that, but the way the play calling works and the way if they have play calls like that against Georgia, they're going to lose. They have play calling like that against Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry next month, they're going to lose. I'm just sitting here and just spitting truth. They're going to lose if they keep calling plays like this over and over again. It's the same predictable thing over and over. Bubble screen, run, draw, bubble screen, and then it's the same predictable stuff that they got going. Slip passes, bubble screens. We see what's coming. The way they're lined up, we see what's coming. We see it on the TV. We see it in the stands. Ohio State's defense is reading it from a mile away. It's predictable. And I think that's what Texas needs to figure out. Play calling in big-time games. Dial it up more. Be a little bit more aggressive. We didn't see Arch being a lot more aggressive until later in the ball game, until they scored. And I think that was the issue the whole game. They need to be more dialed in. They need to be more ready to go. And I think that was a huge issue. Not just Arch, play calling. And I think Arch did play a part in that. Yes, 37% is probably one of the worst things I've seen from a Texas quarterback and from not just from a quarterback this weekend, but from a Texas quarterback in a long time. I believe that 100%. Arch should take accountability for that. Yes, but here's the deal. Play calling did not help either. And I think they need to get better at it in big-time games. They got out physical. Yes, Ohio State's a little bit more physical than a lot of people were going to expect them to be. Even me. I expected Ohio State to be not that physical, and they proved me wrong in that department. Yes, I'm very underwhelmed with how Texas played overall, but I think they can get better. Let's not write them off. It's only week one, but Texas has got to get better at play calling, especially in big-time moments. Final score of that game was 14-7. Ohio State gets the win, and Ohio State looks good, man. Let's see how they look moving on towards, the rest of the schedule, Grambling. Texas, well, coming up this Saturday, they have San Jose State at 11 a.m. I'm pretty sure they can get a win there and become 1-1. But Texas gets a loss. Let's see how Texas develops and goes on throughout the season. It's not over. It's only week one. That is week 2 now, but it's This is what the beauty of the college football is, ladies and gentlemen. It really is. 14-7 is the final score. Ohio State beats Texas in a huge showdown. Now, 2 more games. We're going to get to the one game, the last game that I got wrong, and then we're going to get to the game that I got right to wrap everything up. And I'm going to give you some of my final thoughts, and then we'll wrap up this episode. Miami and Notre Dame. This game shocked me, and I will say this. This game really did shock me. Rainy environment heading into the game. It was, rainy, wet weather heading into Miami at, in Hard Rock Stadium. And a lot of people were thinking this game was going to be a little bit closer. I thought Notre Dame was going to run away with it at the end, making a 10-point win. I think C.J. Carr was going to make a little bit of more plays. Yes, he did make some mistakes, but I'm not really shocked by a lot of the plays that he made, if that makes sense. I thought he was going to do a little bit better than he did, but I'm also not surprised because this is his first game starting. So who knows, right? But I'm very surprised by the number 10 team. Well, now, not the number 10 team of the nation, but I'm surprised by the U. Final score of this game was Miami 27, Notre Dame 24. Notre Dame goes on the road and gets beat by Miami by a field goal. Will the real Carson Beck and the 2023 Carson Beck please stand up? And he stood up. He stood up. We saw a lot of what we saw from 2023 Carson Beck in this ball game. 2024 Carson Beck was nowhere to be found. Carson Beck was fired up. He was ready. 205 yards, 2 touchdowns, 20 for 31. How about C.J. Daniels with a magnificent one-handed touchdown catch, 5 receptions, 46 yards, and a touchdown. C.J. Daniels, the transfer from LSU to Miami. You have Malachi Toney, 6 receptions, 82 yards, a touchdown, 13 yards, 0.7 yards per reception. You had a lot of guys on this team. Look, Mark Fletcher, 66 yards running the ball. You had Shamar Brown, a touchdown, 54 yards, 15 carries. The U running the ball, physical run game from Miami. They got some receivers like Malachi Toney, like C.J. Daniels. Carson Beck's got some help around him. So it's almost like 2023 Carson Beck is standing up once again. He looked good. All right? He did. They looked good. And they looked physical. And that was my thing. Very surprised by Miami in the physicality department. They look physical on the offensive line. They look physical on the defensive line. And literally, let's talk about the defense really quick for Miami. Let's talk about the defense and literally a magnificent job how that defense played against Notre Dame. Corey Heatherman deserves all the credit for transitioning that defense. They brought talent in on that defense. The IQ level of that defense is now up. They looked like they were very physical on the line of scrimmage, on the edge. They produced a lot of sacks. I mean, they were just flying all over the ball when C.J. Carr and Jeremiah Love and everything. They did a good job of containing the run game as well. Miami looked really solid on defense. And when Miami looked solid on defense and had a kind of a balanced attack on offense, man, they can be really, really solid in the ACC and be a problem in the ACC. I had Georgia Tech going to the ACC championship. I did. And I still do. I do think that Miami and Florida State played a little bit better than Georgia Tech this weekend. I will say that. I think Georgia Tech needs to prove me wrong a little bit. I think those two schools played a lot better than Georgia Tech. I really will. I'll admit that. I think Miami looks solid, and Miami made me eat my words. I said, out of the top 10, who was the most overrated? I said Miami. Go prove me wrong. And they proved me wrong. They made me eat my words. Defensively, they're stout. They're physical on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. They're stout. They're physical. And they got some good receivers like Malachi Toney, C.J. Daniels, Mark Fletcher at the running back spot. Carson Beck, if he keeps playing like that and stays healthy, they can gel on offense even more, and Miami can be a problem, not just in the ACC, but make some noise later on in the year in the college football playoff conversation. So Miami gets a huge win against a team that just showed up from a national championship appearance this past season. So good on Mario Cristobal getting a big-time win this past Sunday at home. Huge win. Let's see what Miami does coming up this weekend. And they, excuse me, let's see, they have Bethune-Cookman, good team, coming in for their next game. 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 Central I think that's what the kickoff time is for Bethune-Cookman in Miami. Miami should get a win there, but we'll see. Never know nowadays, apparently, in 2025 in college football, but Miami gets a huge win against Notre Dame. Shocked that they maybe eat my words, but are they back? I don't know, but we will see as the season goes on. Carson Beck, 2023, Carson Beck stood up and made me eat my words as well. So good on the Canes for getting that win. Let's talk about Notre Dame for a little bit. Here's why I'm not worried about Notre Dame, and I think Notre Dame is going to be a little bit blown out of proportion after the week 1 loss and over-exaggerate. A lot of people are going to sit and say, they're horrible. I think they ran into a better Miami team than most people expect and what I expected. I thought Notre Dame was going to get the win, and I thought Miami wasn't going to be that good, but apparently Miami is that good. So I think that they shocked me, and I think that they did really well. Yeah, and I think that they ran into a tough brick wall that we really wasn't expecting to be a brick wall. Let me just put it that way. But I think Miami's going to be okay. I think Notre Dame's going to be all right. I think Notre Dame's going to be okay. C.J. Carr, 19 for 30, passing, 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, interception. He also had a rushing touchdown, so 3 total touchdowns, 16 yards, 11 carries on the ground. C.J. Carr can be a dual threat. He can run. He did make some good decisions running the ball. He did make some good decisions throwing the ball. Now, he made some bad decisions throwing the ball, and he also, stood in the pocket for too long and took sacks. But guess what? He is a freshman, ladies and gentlemen, a redshirt freshman who hadn't started a game. This is his first start in his collegiate career. Give him time. Yes, it's going to be easier in practice than it is on the field when you're playing against a real life opponent. Fans on the road cheering and shouting at Miami and shouting that you stink at Notre Dame, right? It's going to be a lot more difficult in game than it is in practice. Give C.J. Carr some time because he made some good things happen that Notre Dame should be proud of and look forward to as a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan heading into this season. They have a bye week, Notre Dame does, coming up after this. They got to play Texas A&M in South Bend. Huge home opener for them. That could be another loss. It can also be, right? Also be a big-time win for a young quarterback like C.J. Carr and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Let's see what happens. A rematch with Texas A&M happening week 3. Let's just wait and see. Notre Dame's got a bye coming up this weekend. Now, the run game was shocking. They established it, but not well enough. Miami was all over that. They game planned for that heavily, and Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love really didn't make a lot of noise in the running game, which kind of stinks because I felt like if Notre Dame would have ran the ball at a more elite level, Notre Dame probably could have swayed the game a little bit more. And they didn't because Miami's defense was too good. I think this was a case of Miami being better than advertised. I don't think this was a case of Notre Dame being bad or they got to clean up in certain areas. I think everybody's got to clean up in certain areas, Miami included. But when you look at this game, it was like a very competitive game between both teams, and I think that Miami was just better than advertised. That's what it is. I don't think Notre Dame bad. I just think Miami was better than what people made them. They were better than expected, and they were better than what I expected them to be. So Jeremiah Love's going to be fine. Jadarian Price is going to be fine. The running game is going to be fine. I just think that Miami was a lot better than what they were going to be, than what they were advertised to be. So I'm not really worried about Notre Dame. I'm not. I think they have a lot of stuff to clean up, but I think they can get it cleaned up. I think Marcus Freeman can get it ready to rock and roll. Now, they got a tough game against Texas A&M coming up in a couple of weeks, so we're going to have to see what happens there. But can they get some of this stuff cleaned up? I think they can, but who knows? Maybe I'm wrong on that too, because I was wrong on a lot of stuff this past weekend, apparently. Final score of this game was Miami 27, Notre Dame 24. Miami goes to 1-0, Notre Dame goes to 0-1, and we're off and running in the ACC, and we're off and running in college football overall. So those are the games that I got wrong. Let's talk about the one game that I got right, and we're going to talk about it with a smile on my face, and I'm going to sit here and use the words finally, because finally it happened. LSU at Clemson. Hostile environment, Clemson Memorial Stadium, Battle of the Real Death Valley, according to Savannah 2J. And we had a raucous environment in Clemson, South Carolina, and Clemson Memorial Stadium. They rode around the stadium when the buses, they all got out of the buses, touched the rock, Howard's Rock, they touched it, went down the field, Dabo fired up, LSU came out, and then LSU started off with the ball first. Didn't, they moved the ball well, but they ended up punting. And then, to me, I was thinking, I bet Clemson's going to score right now, aren't they? First drive, 3 and out. You're thinking, okay, all right, interesting. Get stopped again, LSU gets stopped again, and then again, gets held to a field goal, everything right there. A big fumble happened for Clemson, by the way. Had a big fumble. And then the defense, usually, last year at least, the defense for LSU would have gotten scored on, touchdown. They did get scored on, but they only held them to a field goal. So I'm thinking, okay. Made some more tackles, and I'm thinking this defense is looking salty, man. Stingy. Screaming, hooting, and hollering, right? After they make a tackle, when someone gets the ball, they rush whoever has the ball. This is a different LSU defense, man. I'm digging it. I'm digging the physicality. The game happened back and forth. To me, the game was not as close, especially in the second half on the field, as the score made it out to be. 17-10 was the final score. LSU gets the win over Clemson. 17-10. Snaps their streak of losing season openers since 2019. Good for Brian Kelly. Good for LSU. It's getting a lot of people hyped up about LSU in the media because they look better on the field than the score showed. And let me tell you why. Because I'm going to speak. We speak on the winners, right? Let me tell you why. I'm mainly going to credit that defense. In the words of Blake Baker, they are the Bayou Bandits. And if you're not seeing that T-shirt online on X and on Instagram, go and look at it. It's pretty cool. The Bayou Bandits. And LSU looks like the Bayou Bandits on defense. Those defensive backs look nasty. Mansour Delane, Tamarcus Cooley, A.J. Halsey missed out on the first half. And then they were all, wondering, man, this is going to hurt us. We need him in the secondary. Now I know why they say that stuff, because A.J. Halsey, when he came back in to start the second half, was an absolute menace. All over the field was number 13 for that LSU Tigers defensive back crew and the defense. Harold freaking Perkins came in and made the game-winning tackle, blasted Kay Klubnik at the very end, and caused a turnover on downs to get the stop and to get the win for LSU's defense. He had sacks. He had tackles for losses. Harold Perkins was all over that field, along with the Weeks brothers. Witt and Wes Weeks were all over the field as well. Pyburn was there. Patrick Payton was there. P.J. Woodland getting a lot more experience there. He had a sack as well in the first part of the game and came in for the defensive backs, for the defense. That defense looked physical on the line of scrimmage. They outplayed them. They held only Clemson to 31 to 34 rushing yards, I believe. Let me look on the stat line here for LSU. I think it was, 34 rushing yards, I believe, in this. 31 rushing yards. Got it right the first time. 31 rushing yards, as from my notes here. Last year, 2 years ago, Adam Randall would have had a Heisman-winning game against an LSU defense. He would have had, 150-something yards, 3 touchdowns, or even 200-plus, right? Because LSU's defense was lost. Now they are found with Blake Baker and the amount of talent that they have on that defense. It's just like Miami. IQ on defense, very fundamentally sound, very physical, attacking whoever has the ball, playing physical defense, coming towards the ball, coming towards the quarterback, rushing the quarterback. They have the guys now to where they don't need to play zone all the time. They can man up on somebody. They have those guys. That is what the transfer portal does to you. That's what recruiting does. And Blake been having a fantastic defensive coordinator in Blake Baker because he outcoached Garrett Riley in that game. Now, at 17-10, you're thinking, did the offense do anything? Yes, the offense did a lot. The offense made a good plays. Garrett Nussmeier had 230 yards passing, one touchdown. He also had 2 yards rushing, 232 total yards, a couple of touchdowns as well. Or one touchdown as well. Caden Durham ran the ball as well. They ran the ball pretty good. I think they needed to have a balanced rushing attack in this ball game, and they did. 74 yards on the ground for Caden Durham, 26 yards for Xavier Thomas. Jawan Johnson had 8 yards, but that's okay. That's A-okay. They had a trickery play as well. Joe Salome busting out a lot of trickery as well on offense. That offense is going to be legit. I think that what happened is they ran into a good Clemson defense as well. But I will say this. 17-10 was the score, but the score did not really show the game on the field. I think the score was a lot closer than it showed. I think the game was a lot worse the play was a lot worse on the field. I think LSU moved the ball on Clemson a lot better. I think they played better defense than Clemson. They shut them down on the run game. They made Clemson look one-dimensional throwing the ball. The receivers made a couple of plays, yes, but the defensive backs neutralized the receivers and didn't let them break through and make breakthrough plays and big-time plays. They got to K. Klubnik. They rattled K. Klubnik. They forced turnovers. K. Klubnik turned the ball over with Mansour Delane getting an interception. I think the game was more of a blowout on the field than people realize. I think the officiating was horrendous in this game, and I'm going to go off about that here in a little bit. The officiating was horrendous. The game should have been at least 24-10 or 27-10 because they missed quite a few calls in that game that could have been scores, especially that Barry and Brown touchdown. What is a catch? Same thing happened in the South Carolina-Virginia Tech game as well. With Nick Harbor, what is a freaking catch? Don't know anymore, I guess, in college football, right? But Barry and Brown had a touchdown. They overturned it, and they ended up kicking a field goal. And LSU missed that field goal because Damian Ramos, I don't know if he pulled a calf, pulled something. It looked like he got hurt on that play. But ended up being a tip field goal after that, but horrendous call and officiating in that game. I'm not making excuses for LSU. LSU had some penalties where it shot themselves in the foot. I will say that there were a lot of missed calls for Clemson because Clemson had a lot of calls that could have been called on them, and the officiating crew missed it. And I don't know what happened there, but the officiating was not good in that game. And officiating across the board in college football wasn't good this past weekend either. So, other than that, doesn't matter. 17-10 is a win. LSU snaps a season opening win. What does this mean about LSU and how good they played? I think they played like they're one of, if not the best team in the country this past Saturday. And I believe that. I made some remarks on X that we'll touch on here in a little bit before we wrap up on Pigskin Frenzy. I believe that LSU played like that. They played having a balanced approach on offense, which is good. They played really, really good defensively. They went into a tough environment against Clemson in Clemson Memorial Stadium, who was 31 for 33 out of their, in winning games at home. And they snapped that in a tough environment, raucous crowd against one of the best teams in the country of returning in offensive returning production and production in general. Probably the most production that you can return in college football, and LSU finds a way to get it done. That should scare people, okay? And it should scare people because, number one, they found a defense with a load of talent on offense. And if they have a defense like that with a buttload of talent on offense, that should scare people in college football. So I think a lot of people are going to be paying attention to LSU. Now, tough game in a couple of weeks. Yes, they have Louisiana Tech. I would focus on Louisiana Tech first in week 2. Tough game in a couple of weeks against Florida. Florida has South Florida this weekend. Interesting. We'll talk about that at the end of the show as well. Has South Florida. So Florida's going to be focusing on that. But if Florida goes into that game undefeated, a lot is at stake in that game early on. Not just in conference play, but look what happened to LSU last year at Florida. So a lot at stake in that game. I'm getting chills thinking about it. That's going to be a good game. We're fired up for that one. Let's talk about Clemson really quick, and let's then move on and touch on the officiating, because I need to talk about that and get that off my chest and talk about some of the remarks I made before we wrap up on, what we talked about on next, right? So Clemson, to me, is going to be just fine. I think the same thing about Notre Dame like I think about Clemson. I think they're going to be just okay. I think they ran into a team that was a lot better than advertised and a lot better than people expected. A lot of people expected LSU to be good. There's also a lot of people that expected LSU to be bad. I was high on LSU. I had the number 2 in the conference standing projections in the SEC with Texas beating them, right? Okay, but Clemson, I had Clemson winning the ACC. I still have Clemson probably winning the ACC. I think Cade Klubnik being the number 1 best quarterback returning in the 2025 season. Still to this day, I think Cade Klubnik can fit that bill. I think Cade Klubnik, just because Cade Klubnik ran into a brick wall and played against a talented team, doesn't mean that Clemson can't run the table and go to the college football playoff and win the ACC. It's week 2, man. I mean, really, it's week 2. We don't know. But I will tell you this. Clemson showed that in the ACC that they can run the table in some ways. Now, against top matchups and in season openers, Dabo is starting to have a little bit of a streak of not doing so hot in season openers. Now, does that mean that we have another LSU situation on their hands with Clemson? Who knows? But they don't have the best luck in season openers, and they don't have the best luck against top caliber teams, I would say. I don't know if LSU's a top caliber team just yet, right? But who knows? They play like it, but I mean, who knows? I mean, against the Georgias, against the Ohio States, right? They have shown that it's been kind of in the season openers, but against top caliber teams here as of late. Now, with that being said, Clemson has the talent to compete with a lot of teams, and I think they have a shot at running the table. They did some good things. They made some good. Kay Cullen made some good throws. They put up a physical fight on the line of scrimmage against LSU this past Saturday. At least in the first half. Yes, they did get blown out in the second half, I believe, but at least in the first half, they did some good things. I think they ran the ball well, especially in the red zone, which was good. I think that they did have some penalties that they need to clean up. Yes. But overall, Clemson didn't look bad, at least in the first half perspective. Now, in the second half, they were nowhere to be seen. And I think they got to clean some stuff up in the second half, like the penalties, like some of the poor timely throws, protecting Cade Klubnik, yes, but that's fine. They played a hard-fought game against a team that was better than them. And I think that it's just the same thing with Miami and Notre Dame. I think LSU's better than what people expect them to be. And I think they played I think LSU was the better team that night. I think Clemson's got a lot of talent. I think they can still run the table and win the ACC. They just have a better team than advertised. LSU does. And that's what I think, honestly. They did blow Clemson out stat-wise and on paper. The score doesn't show it. But they blew Clemson out on paper, in my opinion. So, and in my thoughts, and if you look at the stats and you look at it on paper, LSU to me did blow them out on paper. So, final score of this game was 17-10. LSU beats Clemson. Clemson will be back. They'll bounce back. I'm not too worried about Clemson yet. So, they just played a better LSU team, and LSU was better than expected. That's all I got to say about that game. Final score was 17-10. LSU's cooking, man. They look good on both sides of the ball. Clemson will be just fine. We just got to see and wait and see what they do. So that was the final score, and that was the game I got right. Finally, Brian Kelly. Finally, LSU. You get it done. Are we going to hold off on the Brian Kelly talk yet? We got to wait and see. I don't know, but they start off the season 1-0 for the first time since 2019. And in 2019, LSU won the national championship. So I will leave it there. That was the Week 1 recap for Pigskin Frenzy and our Pigskin Frenzy games. We're going to announce our Pigskin Frenzy Week 2 coverage games for coming up this Thursday and our very guest picker that we're having on Thursday as well. We are so excited about that, and we are pumped to be doing this show. Let's talk about the officiating, because the officiating got under my skin this past weekend. Got under my skin. And LSU Clemson, that game, for sure, got under my skin with officiating. They, especially with South Carolina and Virginia Tech as well. What is a catch in college football? Now, you obviously the ball can't be moving. You got to have maintained process of the catch, and the process of the catch, and you got to hold on to the ball, make sure the ball's not moving. Okay, sure. And then when the ground, after you broke the plane and the play's dead and the ball hits the ground as you're going down, it should still be a touchdown regardless. We saw 2 instances of that. One against LSU, one LSU Clemson with Barry and Brown, and then Nick Harbor where South Carolina on Vitek on Sunday. We saw that twice. Same catch. Both were overturned and overruled and as an incomplete pass. So to me, I was thinking to myself, how is that not a touchdown? So Barry and Brown caught the ball, had possession, maintained process of the catch. Everything was there. Breaks the plane, touchdown. The ball, to me, is a touchdown. And then he gets on the ground, and after the play, to me, was dead, the ball hits the ground. And the ball came out at the end. After the play was done, after he broke the pylon. To me. So to me, that should be a touchdown. The refs ruled it and overturned it. So what is a catch? Because now we're going to have more instances like this in college football to where, okay, we're going to see some instances like that, and the refs are going to call it a touchdown, and then the refs are not going to call it a touchdown. Same thing with targeting. It's the same thing. We have clear, blatant targets where people are leading with the helmets, and they don't call it targeting. And then we have, people who are bumping shoulders together, nowhere near targeting or leading with a helmet. That is called targeting in college football. Here's my rant. What is what nowadays in college football? That's my question. What's a catch? What's not a catch? What's targeting? What's not targeting in college football? You're going to sit there and say, oh, it's the officiating crews. And it could be. It could be a SEC officiating, because SEC officiating has not been good the past few years. Going to point that out there. And not only that, college football officiating hadn't been good as well. So what is what in college football? What are the real rules, and what can we do? I saw an instance where in LSU Clemson and Notre Dame and Miami, clear as day, K. Klubnik was scrambling, rolls out, scrambles, throws, and there was no receiver in the area. And it was before, didn't even reach the line of scrimmage. Intentional grounding. To me, they didn't even call intentional grounding. So Notre Dame and Miami, next night, there were 2 intentional grounding calls. One was clear as day because there was no receiver in the area and didn't make it past the line of scrimmage. The other was the same exact throw Klubnik made. No receiver in the area. Nobody there. Sideways throw into the sideline. Line of scrimmage. Didn't pass the line of scrimmage, all of that. Same thing that K. Klubnik did on this past Saturday. It happened on Sunday with C.J. Carr with Notre Dame. They throw the flag and call intentional grounding. It's blowing my mind that one person's not getting a call and the other person's getting a call. You're missing holdings, but you're going to call holding on another team, on the same team that they're playing against, right? It sounds all fishy, right? It really does. Something sounds off. Like Clemson had a lot of holds. LSU gets called holding when they get on the offensive line. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make it make sense. And I said that on X. Make it make sense when it comes to officiating. I'm tired of it. I've been tired of it. It's already happening in week 1. And that's the scary thing. So officiating needs to be better in college football. They're missing calls and then calling the same exact thing on the other team. What's targeting? What's catching? What's this? What is that? We don't know anything because the refs are throwing flags for stuff that, you should have called that on it or on that guy earlier, but now you're going to call it on this guy when that guy did the exact same thing. It's dangerous for the sport, not just in terms of college football games being won or lost, but for health reasons as well. It is dangerous. And I'm slamming my hand on the table because it does rile me up a little bit. It's a dangerous thing. We need better officiating in college football. I'm all for it. That's my 2 cents, and that's my rant. One more thing before we wrap up and conclude this episode of Pigskin Frenzy and promote Thursdays. I made some remarks on X. Shout out to NBC Sports' Nicole Auerbach and On 3 Sports' Ari Wasserman. I made some comments about LSU and Ohio State. Who should be number one? Ohio State should be number one. They did beat, the number one team after all. They should. I'm not disagreeing with that. I just was saying I was high on LSU, even though they were number 2 in my SEC conference standing projections, and I had them behind Texas. I'm not saying LSU should be number 1. It did trip a lot of people up when I said vote for whoever, though. I did trip a lot of people up saying that. But I will say this. When it comes to who played better on Saturday night, I think LSU played better on Saturday night than Ohio State did. I'm just keeping it at $1.50 with you. I think they played better. Now, am I upset that Ohio State could be number 1? No, I'm not upset about that. Do I think LSU has an argument with it? Yeah, I think LSU does. Doesn't matter. It's week 2 to me. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, Joel's running away from the argument. I'm not going to run away from an argument at all, or a debate or a hot topic. I'll say whatever, and I'll double down on it. I think LSU played better on Saturday. Do I think Ohio State has an argument? Yeah, they do. Defending national champions, and they beat the number 1 team. I think LSU also has an argument as well. Completely blew out Clemson. Ohio State did not blow out Texas. And LSU, to me, played better than Ohio State on both sides of the football. They did. And Ohio State has a really good defense as well. So I'm not discrediting all of it. I'm just saying that in my remarks, I think preseason rankings, this is why we wait until fall. And this is why I say during the conference standing projections, this is why I say about projections in general, why they are subject to change during the season, because we are not going to know until week 1 and beyond happens. We're not going to know a lot after week 1 either way, because that was their first game. You know what I'm saying? So it's who knows? We're going to figure out who teams are within the next few weeks. September is for pretenders, and I'm not saying that as everybody's a pretender. I'm just saying we're just starting out. Dude, we're in the first inning, bro. It's like, if we're talking about baseball terms, we're in the first inning, man. Buckle up and strap in, because we got a long season to go. Guys, that is all we got for Pigskin Frenzy today. A big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple. All you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X and Instagram is at Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow, like the pages there. You're going to get episode updates, news and highlights from across college and NFL football. Trivia questions on Instagram stories. Go and answer today's college football question, as well as all the answers today for Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, the website's www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. 5,300 listeners and counting. We're making that number up to 5,400 and counting. Guys, big thank you for tuning in each and every Tuesday and Thursday for Pigskin Frenzy. We could not do this without you guys, and we couldn't do this show without our Lord and Savior Jesus. We give him all the praise and all the glory for doing Pigskin Frenzy and for giving me the platform to spread his good name and to glorify him and give him all the praise. If you want to come to know him, contact me on X and Instagram at Pigskin_Frenzy and the website www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Guys, Thursday we have a big episode coming up on tap. Week 2 ranking reactions. We're going to have week 2 preview and predictions, and we're going to interview our very special friend, our newfound friend of the show, and very special guest from The Groff Show, Jackson Groff, producer from the volumes 3 and Out with John Middlecoff, and we have Jackson Groff coming on from his own show, coming up to be a guest picker for week 2 of college football season, covering the Pigskin Frenzy games. Those Pigskin Frenzy games are Illinois at Duke, Missouri playing a home game against Kansas, Kansas at Missouri, the KU-MU rivalry. Super pumped about that one. We have South Florida at Florida, and Michigan at Oklahoma. Those are the Pigskin Frenzy games for week 2. We're fired up. We're going to pick those games on Thursday. Guest picker, Jackson Groff, host of the Groff Show, producer from 3 and Out, hosted by John Middlecoff from Colin Cowherd's The Volume. Going to be a great episode coming up on tap on Thursday. Guest picker there, and we're going to talk to him about his career in this as well. So until Thursday, until week 2 preview and predictions, I'm Joel Norris, and until we see Jackson Groff, I'm Joel Norris. We're signing off. We're thankful for you all. We're praying for you all. Guys, as always, stay the course.